Alright, Merts, welcome to the CineMerts podcast with Max Coulson and Levi Johnson. Today we watched Ang Lee's Hulk.
Yep. Not like She-Hulk. Ang Lee's Hulk.
Ang Lee's Hulk.
Yeah. So I'm Levi Johnson.
I'm Max Coulson.
And, I decided, well, you know what everyone's been talking about? She-Hulk. And everyone's like, this thing sucks. I hate it so much. So I was like, if you guys thought that was a bad Hulk thing, what about Ang Lee's Hulk? That thing sucked balls.
Ang Lee's Hulk. The film he made between Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon and Brokeback Mountain.
Yeah, that's a real oddball right there. Like, first and foremost, who's like, man, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon was such an awesome movie. You know what we need to do? Get that guy to direct the Hulk? It's about like finesse and doing kung fu, and now we need a guy to punch some things. Maybe. I guess
It's an interesting choice.
Yeah.
But what's more interesting is Ang Lee's choices consistently throughout the movie.
Yeah. Like, I think there's some good choices in there. Like, I think there's some big brain stuff that he goes with. Like, he's like, hey, what if the Hulk was just a metaphor for trauma? Like, okay. Makes a little bit more sense than just being an angry man.
It kind of forgets to follow through on that a lot, though.
Yeah, it gets weird. Like, we'll talk about that. But, oh my god. So, do you want to give us a quick synopsis of how this movie went down?
Not really. We've literally just finished watching it, and this film is extremely hard to remember. It overloads you with so much shit that I'm like, this is why I was like, did you write down like plot moments? Because like, this movie has fucked my brain.
Okay, I guess I'll do it then. So, Ang Lee's Hulk. We meet Bruce Banner, a young boy who is born, and he's a weird-looking kid. Anyways, something traumatic happens to him as a child, and then we skip forward to way later in life, where he's got a weird relationship with Betty Ross. While they work together in, like, a science lab, we then find out he's immune to radiation for some reason. And then he becomes the Hulk. He begins smashing things, and his dad shows up with some weird poodles that he then turns into Hulk poodles. They smash some shit, and then he just fights the military for a while, and then his dad shows up again, but now he's the absorbing man. Then he absorbs Hulk powers and dies. That's Ang Lee's Hulk.
yeah, I think that
is the rundown of like the plot, really. There's actually smart stuff that happens in there and crap stuff that happens in there, like the poodle dogs.
The weird thing is that the smart stuff and the stupid stuff often happen right next to each other, like one immediately after the other.
Yeah.
And it's mostly the stupid shit.
Yeah. Which takes me into the great segue of one of the things we need to talk about just clearly on its own, just as a thing. If there was a graphic, it would now say, the editing.
Oh. Ooh.
Yeah.
This film has such student film energy to it. It's like, not even student film. When I say student film, okay, I don't mean like university student film. I mean like GCSE student film. Like someone's first been shown this editing software and they've just gone ham on all the transitions. It's just like drag this in and drag this in and drag this in. Oh, look, we can have this. We can have a split screen, but then the split screen like splits off into a smaller screen and then moves across the screen while two more screens fade in.
Yeah, like it's like Ang Lee was like comic book movie, you say. Well, that's a great reason to have like creative edits.
So we need to talk about the first one of these we get in the film because it's possibly one of the most baffling, which is the one where David Banner is talking to his wife and she's
God.
like, I'm pregnant, and like as she's still saying it, we see like her face as she's like giving birth in a little bubble, and then the bubble grows, but it's behind them, and then it kind of warps in front of them, and then like zooms out into her giving birth.
Yeah.
It is so fucking odd, and it's also like she hasn't even finished speaking when it happens.
Yeah, it is like the weirdest. It was like, oh.
It's like whoever was behind the camera like shut the camera off the second she stopped speaking, and Ang Lee was like, "Oh, that's weird. I don't have enough footage
to feed
like,
into." Yeah, it's just a still JPEG. Like,
it's so fucking weird.
and I think that first edit really sets the tone because you go, okay, we just had a weird first edit, but like, you know, maybe he's just going for some creative. Oh, and we're doing more of these, and the movie does not stop.
It spams them. What's weird is it does kind of have periods where you don't get any of the weird edits, but then they'll come back. It's like long enough for you to kind of forget. And then they come back and he just starts spamming them again. They just like, it's just immediately one
With
right after the other.
Vengeance.
Yeah. And I mean, like, not exaggerating, it's like every shot ends up having a weird transition between them. Like, that's how frequent it is. And it's honestly, like, a struggle.
It really is. It's really off-putting. I think some of the weird things, because one of the things I was quite surprised by is the performances in this movie are really good.
The acting is next level.
Yeah, like, it's really solid.
Like, Ang Lee's obviously very good at working with actors. He's very good at getting, like, top-notch performances. Plus, he's got a really good cast in there as well. Every actor in there, I think, is a really solid actor in their own right.
There's a weird thing of contrasting this with the rest of the MCU, where no one really is willing to give a true performance. Everyone is on a low-key tongue-in-cheek in it, right? Like,
yeah.
Like, I think the only person in, like, from what I can remember from, like, the MCU, the early MCU stuff, who's not tongue-in-cheek in it, it's kind of Scarlett Johansson, and that's because Black Widow is just not that type of character.
Yeah, until they turned her into one, like, later
in the
on.
Black Widow movie. But,
Yeah.
like, at that point, she's the only person who kind of feels like she's given, like, a really, like, this is a consistent performance, except my character's boring, so it's not fun to watch. This is actually good. Like, the ranges is great. Like, I can't remember who is it. It's like Eric Banner as
Bruce,
yeah. And I wanted to call her Julia Roberts. That is not who it is.
No, it's not.
Jennifer Connelly.
Connelly.
As Betty Ross. Wow.
Yeah.
Like, Jennifer Connelly does, like, some real good acting in this.
And Sam, what's his name?
Sam Elliott.
Sam Elliott, yeah. As
the second best cast man in the entire Marvel franchise.
Yeah,
like,
he's great.
Top guy being fucking J.K. Simmons.
Yeah.
And then this guy.
Sam Elliott's great. I mean, Sam Elliott's... I love Sam Elliott anyway. He's such a great actor. He doesn't have the hugest range, but he's great at what he does. You know, I love him in The Big Lebowski. I love him in, like, Roadhouse. He's great in that. Like...
Didn't even remember him in Roadhouse.
He's the mentor bouncer. He doesn't have a mustache in that movie.
Oh, shit.
Would throw you, but yeah, he's Dalton's mentor.
Wow.
But like, but all the performances, top notch. And I think both of us, like, at different points in the movie, were like, can you imagine acting this hard for this movie? Like, imagine being one of the actors and putting that in, because you can't get how, like, the script is not that bad. So, like, imagine putting in this performance and you're sitting there and then you start to see those edits.
Yeah, right. You're like, but I delivered so hard on that line, and then, like, the camera for some reason cut to, like, 8 other, like, split shots of, like, the background and a helicopter and there's an octopus in the scene and what is going on?
And it doesn't let up even for like the kind of what should be the scenes where like it kind of it slows down. Like there's one scene between Bruce and his dad, and you know, in this black void, which is they're in a lab, but it's just a black void.
I love that right at the end. They're like, if he even moves, we're gonna like fry him, and then he just goes on a mega maniacal.
Yeah, he's like getting up and ranting and raving. But like even during that scene, they start using the split screen and shit, and it's like, come on, like slow up. The actors are really working right now.
Right.
Let them carry this.
Like I love that scene, like because this is like right at the end of the movie. But like I love that scene because it gives me real university, college vibes, man. The fact that they're in a black void and it's two guys basically on stage and they're just acting really hard, and then like fucking Eric like just screams. He's like, "No!" You're like, yeah, this is like so staged. This is like real theater feel right here. Man. This is wow. But like I freaking love it. Like you don't get that kind of performance in the MCU anymore.
No, no.
And that's what I think makes it like really interesting. But Jesus Christ, the overall story for this film is kind of trash.
Like I say, it's because it's like it's so bare bones basic. Once you lose, especially once you lose those kind of metaphorical layers as well, once you strip that away, if you're talking about the surface level textual narrative, it's so hollow. There's nothing going on.
Yeah.
So all you really have is the metaphorical layers on top of it. But those aren't really very well thought through either. And so what the film seems to think is a suitable replacement for that is to just bombard you with shit constantly. And it's honestly the only thing I can compare it to as an experience is like watching the Michael Bay Transformers movies. It's for a very different reason. They don't do it with their editing, they do it with the chaotic action. But it's that same thing of you're just being bombarded with too much information. It overloads your brain.
There was one scene where, you know, he just arrives in San Francisco and he's just raging around, and then the military show up. And they could have done this like multi-camera, like multi-splits, whatever shot, but they just choose to overdo it. They have the Hulk standing there and he's getting surrounded by soldiers. So what do? They just show every last bit of footage that they got of soldiers moving in, whether they be close by, whether they be round the corner, because some of the soldiers were arriving, but they were arriving from like behind the corner, then coming down the street, then coming like up behind it. And there's so many of them, you're like, where are these guys? And it becomes a bit disorientating. Whereas I said if they showed a little bit more restraint, they could have framed it where the Hulk is looking like one way, and that's like a hard shot, like you see like from behind the Hulk, and you see the military coming up the road. Then you use like some other panels. One shows from like the left, it's got like the Hulk in profile. You see another one from the right, and then you got one scene directly into his face, and you see soldiers come from behind. That would have worked because you know where everyone is. You're like, oh, he's surrounded. But the fact that they spam it, you're like, yeah, I get it, he's surrounded, but I don't actually know where anyone is.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck am I looking at?
Yeah, you lose all sense of space and like what's going on. And the film is just like that. It really exemplifies it, that scene. I think it's a really good choice for like that because, but yeah, it is constant. And like I say, it is a shame because people were clearly trying with this movie. Both the actors, I think Ang Lee, clearly this wasn't just a paycheck movie for him. Like, this is clearly something he cared about, which honestly makes it all the more baffling because this is a talented filmmaker, an extremely talented filmmaker.
And that's the thing, I think that's weird because the edits as well are good. Technically good.
Yeah.
Like, if you put them on a showreel, people will be like, oh, wow, you got, that's a lot of compositing you did there.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. But it's so bizarre because the edits are really fast-paced, and I think that puts it quite at odds with the story. Because the story is really a slow-paced, methodical kind of character study, almost. where the Hulk, instead of just being like a rage monster like he is in the comics, they've really gone for the Hulk as trauma. One of the great scenes I think that works pretty nicely to kind of set this up is the fact that the first time he gets exposed to radiation, the Hulk is seen behind the door where like his dad has freak out and then comes to murder him, right? Mm-hmm. So that first bit, you're like, oh, that trauma, the repressed memory that he has, behind that, we have the Hulk.
Yeah.
So it sets up quite nicely. But then in so many scenes, it's just weird, random. Like, it feels a bit at odds with itself with how it edits a lot of those scenes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, for sure. I think it is... Yeah, I think that's the thing, because like it being a character study is a really good way of putting it. I think that's definitely what Ang Lee was going for with it. But it's almost, and maybe this is it. Maybe this is just me speculating as to the process. But maybe this was a case of after the fact, like after everything's shot, looking back over maybe an early preliminary edit, going, this isn't action-packed enough. This isn't going to work for the action movie, comic book movie audience. This isn't going to play.
Wow. You know, I didn't even consider that.
Yeah.
And you saying that, it seems really obvious that that's exactly what happened. So it feels like now it's like, release the Ang Lee cut. Yeah, wow. I think that would, like, a much less... Holy shit. Thinking of those edits as spite edits? Like, fuck you, you wanna fuck with my movie? Like, I made, like, this art house fucking character study, and you said it wasn't action-packed enough, so fuck you. You wanted moving shit? There you go. Look, there's moving stuff all over the place now. Oh my fucking god.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, if that was done out of spite, you know me, I respect that shit.
Yeah, I'm like, did this movie just become a masterpiece? Oh my god. Yeah, shit, I think this movie might just potentially have become a masterpiece. Like, he ruined the movie out of fucking spite. Like, wow.
Well, like I say, you know I appreciate that shit. And that's
it's great to show contempt for your audience. That feels... I'd never even considered that. Wow.
It does seem like it could very well be that.
That has completely, recontextualized my entire thoughts. Yeah, okay. Wow. Wow, that's thrown me for a loop. Because, I was going to say, like, the story's got, like, a lot of theming going on with as well with, like, childhood trauma with your dad. Because Betty Ross also has childhood trauma with her dad.
Yeah, it's
maybe
definitely
a bit contrived that it's the same fucking event.
Yeah, for sure. That's a bit overly convenient. But...
Yeah, like, her dad just being a military guy and not being there was more than enough to set up that she's got beef with him, right?
Yeah, I think that was a bit much. But with that being said, like, I think in terms of that, in terms of like the trauma thing, like I say, it's not the best. It's not very well explored,
and it becomes clumsy as well, because that San Francisco scene is where it gets really awkward and gross, because he's like the Hulk and he's freaking out. And Betty's like, let me go to him, I can like restore him or whatever. And he's like, you found me. It wasn't that hard to find you. It's like, yeah, it was. And it's like, oh god, the Hulk is trauma, and this is kind of having Betty be like his saving for. She's like becoming his therapist. She's like his coping mechanism. This is toxic and not really a message you want to push.
No.
You shouldn't be like the emotional support or grounding support for like a person. That's just really unhealthy for both of you. Yeah.
Particularly in a romantic relationship. That's extremely bad.
Yeah.
Any therapist will tell you this.
Yeah, like...
I think this is where I think that the metaphorical thing is totally at odds with the standard tropes of what the Hulk is, because this is something that's much older than the Hulk, right? Which is the idea that the beauty that tames the beast sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's what Betty has always been. It's why Betty is a dogshit character and always has been. Because that trope is terrible.
Yeah.
It's always bad.
You're bringing up like it's basically just King Kong.
It's King Kong, yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's that. I mean, it's older even than that, really. But you know, but King Kong is, you know, in terms of cinematic, and it's definitely what this film is evoking very intentionally. And to be honest, kind of always like the Hulk has always evoked King Kong to some degree. You know, you've got like whenever you kind of have military going after and like helicopters flying around and attacking like someone who's just trying to get away from them, you're always going to be really thinking of King Kong. And I don't like it in King Kong either. I don't like it anywhere. It's a bad trope, but it's particularly bad when you turn it into a metaphor for trauma.
Yeah.
That is not great. I think also that's the other issue of, because she also has trauma, and when you consider that on top of like, so, because this is the other thing, she has trauma, but her trauma is basically unexplored.
Yeah,
because it's not about her. This film's not called Betty, so.
I'm just imagining a different world. It's just called Betty, and like Hulk's just in the background, like smashing some shit. She's like, why do I just keep going after emotionally distant men? Like actual line from the movie.
But like, it doesn't explore her trauma, so it's bringing it up, and the fact that it brings it up is almost worse than if it didn't. Because effectively, by bringing it up, it's basically saying that her trauma is less important than his.
Yeah. Like, it's weird because it low-key seems like she's managed to deal with her trauma by the end of the movie. Like, kind of, it seems like it just happened off screen.
Yeah.
Because, like, her dad rings her and she's like, I'm glad you called. You're like, what? And, like, she seems like she's like, I don't hate you. I've just kind of dealt with it. Like, you know, oh. But, like, when? How? You gonna talk about it? Did it have anything to do with Bruce? Did it have anything to do with the events of that movie? Or, like, well, what happened? Like,
yeah.
Yeah. Like, I think the other place where the metaphor really breaks down hard is at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Where...
Take all my trauma.
Yeah, what? The absorbing man is like, I need to absorb your Hulk powers. Okay, cool, I guess. It makes sense you want to get more powerful. But he's like, you're going to absorb his trauma to get more powerful? How does that work?
Mm-hmm.
What? Like, if anything... He shouldn't be like the absorbing man. He should be like, no, because it's interesting when he's like, I'm here to see my real son. You're just the shell on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. Like, it turns his character from being like this weird kind of, maybe he's sympathetic, maybe he's weird, confused dad, to, oh, he's like a fucking crazy monster. Like, he just wants the power. What it would have been better is if he was like, I can push the Hulk to like another level.
Mm-hmm.
I can inflict more trauma to the Hulk to make him even more powerful or whatever. Like,
and that could even work very well with kind of metaphorical layers on top of it. You know, you could talk like, you know, toxic parenting,
yes,
and that kind of the tough love kind of idea of like, you know, you need that, you need to be fed that to make you stronger,
yes.
and you know, and that could absolutely be something. But then he absorbs all of his trauma, which
turns him into a big bubble.
turns him into a big bubble of stock footage that floats up into the sky and then gets nuked.
Yeah, it's so weird. It's like, wait, did he just yak on that guy? Like, fucking Hulk's just like, I'll turn into a Super Saiyan. He's like, I'm going to eat all that. Like, I ate too much. No. Like, what? Like, all right.
Yeah, it's a confused thing. I think this is one of those things where I think maybe, again, this is where the student film thing comes in again, because it feels like that like, what if like the Hulk is like a metaphor for trauma? Oh, that'd be really cool to explore. Which, yeah, in like an essay, but like when you're like actually trying to write a narrative around that,
Yeah,
it's really difficult to make something that's coherent.
Especially when you want to, or want to, or need to have a big punch up at the end of the movie. Like, one thing I never noticed before, but noticed on this watch, is there's no final Hulk transformation.
No.
Like, he just turns into lightning, the absorbing man, when he bites a wire, and then he, like, lightning teleports to, like, he's like, now we're gonna be in a different scene. And it's almost like Ang Lee was told, like, yeah, we need, like, a fight at the end of this fucking movie. So he was like, fine. And he didn't have a reason to get the Hulk angry or make him turn into, like, the Hulk. So he just, like, had in the sky, there's, like, flashing lights on the clouds, and it's just the Hulk. Like,
Yeah.
You don't see him transform even. He's just already the Hulk.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's
it's
like,
very strange.
all right. Don't think that's how we've established the transformation works, but
Yeah.
fine.
I had genuinely forgotten just how fucking weird the entire ending is. It's presented in such an odd way. And in a completely different way to how the rest of the movie is weird.
Yep.
It's just stylistically so different.
But it does go back to the weirdest bit, which is like the dogfight thing,
Yeah.
where they're just like, oh no, we're just gonna like film it at night in the dark so no one can see anything. It's like, it's so weird because we were like, oh, so all of these Hulk effects look like shit, right? But partway through the movie, the Hulk just goes out in the daylight and he's
And it
running
looks
around.
fine.
Yeah, like him destroying those tanks is like
Yeah.
great. It
Other
looks
than
good.
other than the shade of green, which is a little
Yeah.
bit weird.
His green's weird.
Other than that, though, it looks decent.
Like, it looks...
I was ready for it to not hold up at all, and to be honest, it totally holds up.
Yeah.
It looks good, and that has there's some really good shots in that big desert fight as well.
I
You know,
think
when he
Hulk-
throws the tank and also like when he uses another bit of tank to like block a missile and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And
Like,
it's
going over and smashing the tank with, like, part of the other tank. Like, really good.
yeah. And I mean, obviously, it helps that, like, you know, look, there's the editing's dog shit, and there's like, you know, a lot of like issues with that. But like, this is an Ang Lee movie. The cinematography is fucking phenomenal. It looks great.
Oh, yeah. Like, that was a thing I was like, although I'm not enjoying the movie that much, I'm really enjoying the cinematography. Like...
I know there was one shot that was completely ruined by the edit. I didn't mention it while we were watching it, but it's a scene when Betty's about to drive away, and it's this lovely panning shot, which I think starts off on her dad, and then the camera pans around to her face, and then right round to the key, and it goes from a wide to a macro, all in one take. But then immediately it goes into a split screen. It's like, oh, fuck you, movie. That was so nice. It was that was such a great, like...
Wow, yeah. It's like, oh, there's like real skill here, and like film production stuff is actually happening.
Yeah.
Like, oh, what? Like, yeah, we can just fuck with it though. Like, it's weird, man, because I didn't realize how much I miss seeing film production. Like, I'm sorry, guys. Like, the MCU's just dog trash. Like, everything's just the fucking wide, or like, it's just really stock shots just to get the job done. Everything is just getting it done. So to see like this like level of cinematography, even when it gets ruined by like fucking terrible editing, it's weird. Like it's like really disappointing that the MCU having those amazing budgets, just they don't have the time for it.
Yeah. That's the thing with this. It clearly, like I say, this wasn't some paycheck movie. This wasn't some factory line thing. This isn't like when Spike Lee does like, you know, his fucking cash grab movies, like when he did like the Old Boy remake or something, and it's just like zero effort, like whatever. I'm gonna slap my name on it. I'll let the second unit director make most of the movie. I don't give a shit. That's not what this movie was at all. And yeah, like I say, the cinematography looks great. Again, the acting is great. The script's not too good, to be honest.
Yeah.
The script's kind of shitty, and obviously the editing, I think we've covered. Like, although one thing we didn't mention with the editing is, of course, the whole reason why, the real reason why you had for us to do it, which is the one edit I remembered, the one edit both of us remembered.
Whenever everyone
Yeah,
remembers.
it's such an odd moment as well. Like, it's communicated very strangely. It's so that there's this broker guy, who's a weird character anyway. Multiple times he just attacks Bruce.
Yeah.
The first time is really odd, right? Because like he's like, I've lost this contract. I'm gonna go and attack this scientist on my own. That's a thing that like just fucking.
Yeah, I know, right? It's like, you went behind my back and went directly to the military, cutting me out. Well, one, if I'm cutting you out, like, that's totally my prerogative, man. Like, I can do that. I can do that. But like, what? Could you imagine that? Like, shit. Like, could you imagine like you're at like some fucking random car lot, and like the salesman's like, yeah, do you want to buy this car? And you're like, I don't know. And then you just find out that you can go there and not pay that guy any money, but just buy the car anyway. So you just get a cheaper car.
Yeah.
And then the guy shows up at your house and is like, how dare you buy that car without me? Like, what? And it starts beating you up. Like, what do you think's going to happen? I'm just going to call the police, dude.
But what's even more wild is then after he hulks out, and like he should have killed the guy. I mean, like, there's like 3 moments where he clearly breaks the guy's neck in a row.
Yeah, he's like, oh, let me kick you through this wall. And it's like, damn, it's a good thing I took those like jiu-jitsu classes. I know how to like break fall. Like,
yeah. Anyway, he then he starts beating him up again in while he's like in confinement. And he's like, this is a win-win for me. If you turn green, then they dissect you and I get to... Like, what the fuck are you talking about? He can still kill you in the meantime. You barely escaped with your life last time. And now you're in a more confined space.
You're in a more confined space, and you've got like a busted leg, busted arm, like sprained neck. Like, how are you think you're going to get away from this giant, super strong dude?
And then... So then he actually ends up hulking out while in like this tank that is way too small. Like they already know how big he gets, so it's kind of stupid. But he hulks out, and the broker guy at first he's like, "Don't kill him. Use non-lethal. Use non-lethal only. I need to get a sample." And so he's trying to get this DNA sample, and then he like fails to get the sample. He's like, "Fuck it, give me this rocket launcher."
Yeah,
and, like which is so insane. Anyway, it's like. Yeah, you know the explosion would have taken you out even if it had hit him, right? Like, what was your plan? Why would you even have that? You're indoor. Why would any kind of indoor security ever have a rocket launcher? That's the worst thing you could have.
Well, it was weird. It's like an explosive bullet. Like, he's like, give me the M2. But it's like, wait. What? Like, because he shoots it at the Hulk, it bounces off of him.
Yeah, and then it bounces to behind him, and he's like, "Oh!" And then this is the edit, right? It explodes behind him, and then there's like this white outline gets drawn around him.
Yeah, he like explodes, dives forward, and then they just
like a freeze frame.
Like they freeze frame him like it's like Happy Days or something.
Yeah.
Like...
And then there's just this weird outline that gets drawn around him,
and then they just like have a fire effect consume the like thing. You're like.
It is such an amazingly weird edit.
Yeah.
I actually kind of like it.
That was the reason. Because I was like, you know what? No one would have the balls to do that shit now.
Yeah. Because, and the thing is, if that was isolated, that's like I could even see that in like a Raimi movie. Like, that's one of those kind of weirdo...
Like, when those guys turn to skeletons kind of moments.
Yeah, it's one of those weirdo kind of throwbacky... effects that it's I don't mind it.
Yeah, and then I watched the movie and realised that they were spamming weird edits like that everywhere. And I was like, alright, maybe it's a bit much.
Yeah.
But him dying actually brings up a really weird thing with the movie.
Oh, the Hulk can't kill any military guys?
The Hulk can't kill the military, man. Like, because on watching it, I was like, yeah, this is also crazy. Because... Yes, there's legal issues with like Universal not wanting to like give them the Hulk to make an independent Hulk movie. But let's also be real here. It's probably got a lot to do with the fact that who's the actual main villain of the Hulk? Like,
Yeah.
it's the fucking military, man. Like, even if it's not the main villain, it needs to be like the side villain that he's always fighting.
Yeah. So we should probably explain this because I don't want to assume that everyone knows, and maybe more than just Anwar and Peter will listen to this one. You know, there's always a chance. So basically, the U.S. military, if you're gonna use anything that the military actually use in a movie, so if you want to use actual military aircraft, actual military guns, everything, they hold copyright over all that shit. Their insignia, they hold copyright over. Basically anything that they use, that you have to get their permission to use, and they don't want money for it. What they want is for them to come across well.
Yep.
So obviously them being the villains of a movie is going to be an issue. Now, it clearly wasn't an issue for this one, except for the fact that they can't actually be worse than the Hulk, or at least they can't be killed by him.
Yeah.
So even when the Hulk like rips one of the tanks into and or in one case throws an entire tank, no, the guy's okay.
Yeah.
He gets out, he's fine.
Like, that was the weirdest. It was a nice edit, but also it became weird because it was like, oh, they're only doing this to establish that they didn't die.
Yeah.
When he throws the tank like off into the distance, which is such a great scene.
It's an amazing
like,
shot.
Looks
yeah.
really good. He throws that tank like a bajillion miles away, and then after the tank has destroyed the two other tanks, the Hulk has destroyed two other tanks. We cut to that tank in the distance where the guy is getting out and he's looking off in the distance, going like, hey, look, you see like this green blob like start bouncing away, and you're like,
yeah.
Really? You had to do a it's okay. I can see their parachutes like moment.
Then,
like
I think the wildest one is the fighter jet that's about to crash into the Golden Gate Bridge. So the Hulk saves him like right after he's been shot at by him.
Mm-hmm.
The Hulk like dives onto the plane to like weigh it down so it doesn't crash into the bridge.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait, what the he's a rage monster. He's not. You know, especially, you know, you got to remember, this isn't like your kind of Mark Ruffalo, like, sort of like MCU Hulk. This is like, no, the Hulk's actually a monster. He's not like a hero.
Yeah.
You know, he even like, you know, comes close to attacking Betty at one point when he's still like, you know, like, so, yeah, this isn't
literally
like...
after saving Betty
After saving her, yeah.
He saves Betty and he gets mad thinking about the fact that his dad tried to hurt Betty, and him being so mad, he basically goes to attack Betty.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, so the idea that in the middle, right after being shot at, he would like try and save the person who shot at him is fucking insane.
Yeah. It's really dumb. Like
I think it's so jarring because like even in the MCU, which is much lighter and much fluffier, I don't think I've ever seen anything that blatant in terms of, no, they're fine.
Yeah, it's really weird. Like, there's so many audio lines of people, like, crashing helicopters and then being like, oh, we're okay, but, like, get the Hulk away from us. Like, come on. Like, you can just leave it ambiguous. Like, yeah, we don't see any kill confirms, so, you know, you could just say to people like, oh, yeah, no one died.
Yeah, no, it's like the A-Team, right? You know, the A-Team would always run in with guns and they'd just fucking fire a million bullets, but no one would ever get hit by them, right? Like, it's like that, except only for the military. Because other people die, you know, that, like I say, that broker guy dies, Bruce's mum dies.
Yep.
You know, that's fine. His dad obviously dies at the end.
Yep. But then, just, like, military soldiers, like, look, man, I don't need to see them I don't need to see the corpses, but like, I don't need to see a guy walking out going, whew, it's a good thing I'm not hurt. Like,
yeah, and when it happens with every single one, it starts to get very silly.
Yeah,
like it's...
I didn't mind the one where he picks up like the tank piece and then he like lifts and tips a bunch of guys out. I'm fine with those guys just running away, right?
Yeah,
like, it doesn't have to be like carnage, but like, don't have the guys getting out the tank. Don't have like all those stupid lines of like, it's okay, like, I can see my parachute or whatever, like...
Actually, you know the other thing it reminds me of? This is a really specific thing. There was a Batman Begins game on, I'm assuming Xbox 360, and there was like a Batmobile section, right? And you could just like run cars right off the road in that game. But there was always a readout at the bottom that said casualty at the end of the level. It always said civilian casualties 0.
Well,
and it was always so funny because it's like, so does Bruce Wayne just have that permanently on his readout? Like he's just actually killing his movies, like still no one dead.
Well, I was gonna say that's just like in the Arkham Knight series, like if Batman's driving like the Batmobile, like Arkham, it is Arkham Knight. You could just drive into people, but like to show that you haven't killed them, the car like electrocutes them. So like it's like, wait, you just hit that guy at like 80 miles an hour and then he got electrocuted and that's why he's not dead? Like, shut up. Like, they're fucking dead, man. Yeah, that's like fucking hilarious. I love it so much.
But like at the same time, it's like, that's just some dumb video gamey shit.
Yeah,
it's
right?
so much weirder in a movie to see it. Like,
especially when, like, again, like you're saying, people die. Like in like more child-friendly movies, like, well, I don't know, more child-friendly, because this is kind of heady. That's why.
Yeah.
Like in the Batman movie, like he puts dynamite on some dude. Like you don't see the guy die, and like it's Batman, so it's quite cartoony. Maybe he just sits there feeling kind of knocked out with black soot on his face.
Yeah.
But like, you know, he just threw a guy down like a shaft of dynamite. Like that guy's dead. Like,
yeah. It's I think that's the thing. You don't have to go out of your way to be like they're fine.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's very silly. Like I say, even the MCU doesn't do that.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the Raimi Spider-Man movie doesn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It doesn't. It's like, oh, there's someone unaccounted for there in that car crash. We better make sure that we see them get out and that they're fine. Like, no.
Yeah. Like, could you imagine, like, when the Goblin blows up the Quest Aerospace, like, stuff? Like, when he fires the missile into the bunker and all the stuff blows up? And then cut to that, like hats and everything. Instead, they just cut to, like, a guy just climbing out, like, that was close.
Yeah. Are you guys all okay? Yeah, we're all okay. Freddy Got Fingered has a great example of that, actually. The final shot of the movie is there's this kid character who keeps getting hurt, but like the joke is that like whereas normally it'd be like a standard slapstick character, with him he gets hurt like really realistically. So it's this little kid, but he like loses teeth and he's like getting like he fucking breaks his nose and shit. But basically at the very end, he's like, he runs to see God as he's getting off an aeroplane and just runs into the propeller, and like the entire audience gets sprayed with blood, which is an amazing punchline. But to stave off like an NC-17 rating, you hear the kid in ADR go, "I'm okay." "I'm okay, Daddy." And it's like, it's so obvious that he was supposed to be dead. Like,
oh, that's amazing. Yeah, that's good.
I love that makes it okay. Like,
right? You're like, oh, well, I guess that means death isn't there. Like, someone should do that in like lots of different movies. Like, just go into like Game of Thrones, like Oberyn Martell, like, I killed her and then I smashed her head like this. I'm okay, don't worry. Like the vibe.
It's like the opposite of you know how like Corridor Digital have done those, like, you know, if the MCU movies were like realistic and,
yeah,
you know, it's just like
stuff.
R-rated stuff. Like, just do the opposite of that, where you just take obvious kills and just undo them.
Like that scene in RoboCop when that guy's like, somebody call an ambulance, and like, and then that guy like, he actually gets in there and he's like, oh, it's cool. Whew. That was a scary one there. He like sits up afterwards. Like nothing vital was here. Okay, so this is now the obligatory, this is how it relates to fucking capitalism section. Do
you have anything, or are you just jumping in mine?
Wait. I'll find something. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I'm not getting too much of a political read on this. See, this is okay. This is actually the issue, right? This is the core issue, right? The Hulk doesn't mean shit. Okay.
That is kind of the issue with the Hulk. Like, so, I guess the final thing I want to bring it around to is their Hulk and She-Hulk connection, and like the Hulk is like a franchise as a whole, and what I kind of perceive is maybe just problems with the Hulk. So one of the things you were saying earlier is that, yeah, like the Hulk just doesn't really have like a meaning or like a premise or anything really. He's just a guy who gets angry and wrecks shit. And that really is a problem with the Hulk. Mm-hmm. Like, I see why Ang Lee was like, we got to do something here. Like, Hulk as trauma, like, because Angry Man Punch is really, really fucking dry, and is honestly why I, even as a kid, like watching the Hulk cartoon, was like, yeah, so the She-Hulk is the best thing about this, and it should just be about her. Like, the Hulk doesn't need to exist. He's just crap. And every time, whenever I think about the character, like, yeah, there's been good Hulk stories, but like, it really is like trying to prize blood from a stone. Like, he just doesn't have good shit to work around, right? Like,
I've said before, Joe Fixit is the more interesting Bruce Banner transformation.
Yeah,
like him turning into a 1930s gangster is fucking weird, but it's something. It's
like the character can have motivations.
Yeah,
like the Hulk doesn't have motivations. He just wants to smash.
Yeah,
like, and not even the fun kind of smash. Like, yeah, the fact that he doesn't want to do anything makes it really dry. It makes it boring. I've always found that to be the weakest. He's the weakest member of like the Marvel lineup, in my opinion. He's so boring. Like, yeah. So when they said that they were going to do a actual She-Hulk series, well, aside from the fact that I was like, series? Why the fuck are you not making a movie? Yeah, I was quite for it. I think the She-Hulk is better, and I hope that they allow the She-Hulk just to take Bruce Banner's place and be an actual character. Like, okay, so as a kid, I you know, Cree Summer, man, doing bits, like giving the best performance ever as She-Hulk, just being this kind of sexy lady who loves being the Hulk. She loves being super strong. She loves being taller than everyone else. She loves being muscular. And that's something you don't get to see female characters do. Like, love their body, love their sexuality. And remember as well, this is a kid's cartoon. And then she's like, hey, guess what? I'm on the runway in like heels. Like, I'm already like 6'5". I'm in high heels. And like, I've got like this high slit up my skirt. And it's like, oh wow, she's attractive. She knows she's attractive, so she's gonna flaunt it. Like, she owns her sexuality.
Yeah.
And in fact, she gets to like flirt with, I don't know, there was like a Black Shield agent guy. Like, I remember her flirting with him. Yeah, in one episode, like, she was like, I'll let you take me out to dinner or something. And he was like, yeah. And I'm like, yeah, like, she's the one in control here. Like, and female characters don't get to do that shit.
Yeah.
So it becomes way more interesting than Punch Man. Like, it's like, the two just don't stack at all. Like, there's no comparison, in my opinion. She-Hulk is the more interesting character. The only downside to her is she's called She-Hulk.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. Otherwise, like, she should just be the character.
Yeah, like, I think it's an interesting one that the Hulk is possibly, like, next to Spider-Man, the most adapted sort of Marvel character. Might even been adapted more than Spider-Man if we're talking only live action stuff, because it's a TV series. Like,
Spider-Man had a live action TV series.
Yeah, it did actually, and also it had a Japanese one. So
they are by nowhere near as beloved though. So like,
no, that's true.
The old David Banner series with Lou Ferrigno was actually well regarded.
Yeah, it was. It actually holds up relatively well. It's a pretty good show.
Never properly watched it.
It's all right. It's all right. It's very of its time. But
Yeah, that theme song is not good.
no. But you know, it's definitely got its moments, and it's kind of not scared to be goofy, like when it needs to be. So, like, you know, the episode where the Hulk has to land a plane because like there's a plane that's out of control, and then David Banner gets stressed while he's like trying to land the plane. So he transforms into the Hulk, and then like the Hulk puts on the headset, and he's like, "You're gonna need to like pull this thing." Like,
I love that because like the Hulk's like, I could just crash into the ground and walk away, but like, no, Hulk must land. Like, sorry, now I'm just thinking of Draw Together where he's like, you know what Ling Ling must do? And Ling Ling's like, kiss Hulk? Like, no, dance!
unless Ling want to kiss her.
No. Yeah, oh, it's so good.
But yeah, no, that the TV series was okay, but I think the reason it's been adapted so much though is probably in a way because it's the most not superhero-y, and also probably because it's so tethered to kind of like golden age Hollywood type monster stories that I feel like there's that contingent of like, I don't know, it evokes something like, you know, Hollywood loves to kind of regurgitate its old like golden age stuff.
Yeah.
Especially the kind of like, you know, baby boomer directors all love that.
Yeah, like,
because that's what they grew up on.
And they're like, "Oh, I get to tell a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde story." Like,
Yeah.
ooh.
Yeah, exactly. So I think there's that aspect to it as well. But yeah, overall, he's just not very interesting. It's there's just not within the confines of what he can be. Anyway, like I say, in a sense, doing a character study thing could have been interesting, but it'd never be allowed to be.
Yeah.
You know, there's no way you could have the super in-depth character analysis necessary to really make something like that work in the context of a major Hollywood movie. They wouldn't, you know, they wouldn't pump money into that.
Yeah, like it's really weird because they almost had a chance to do it because, like what I was saying, I've been pushing for Professor Hulk, not literally, but a fusion of Banner and the Hulk for like forever, because I always hated the fact that the Hulk and Banner are separate entities.
Yeah.
I've always been like, no, they should be the same person, like just angry, right? And the character study or whatever, or the storyline should be how he gets to a point where he can control his anger. He's still furious and like wants to smash and like beat you up, but like he's still Bruce Banner. Like he still has like some of those thoughts and things connecting him, but no, they just seem really dead set on keeping them separate. Except in the Professor Hulk thing where he's just Bruce Banner, except they were like, oh, well, what if we just don't have Mark Ruffalo in the movie and just show a giant CGI guy?
Yeah.
And it's I'll be honest, it's kind of fucking terrible. I actually, I hate it.
Yeah.
I'm like, why? Why would you do this? Like, it's really, really bad. Like, they just off-screened all of his character development to be able to be the Hulk at will and merge those two personalities, and they didn't do anything.
Especially since it happened after Thor Ragnarok, where the Hulk was given an actual real personality. This was the first time the Hulk's had a personality, like an actual, like, you know, because they kind of turned him into this kind of, you know, stressy toddler, basically.
Yeah.
Which was a, you know, for a comedy, pretty good way to go with it, where he's just like, no, he's just kind of in a permanent temper tantrum.
Yeah.
So they could have done something with that, but they didn't. Which is weird because they kind of act like they are. They constantly talk about merging the two of them, and
yeah,
they just don't.
Like they even have like a line where he's like, "Me and you got a lot of stuff to work out, buddy." Like where him and Hulk argue.
Yeah.
But then they just skip all of it. So
yeah,
and there's not really a going back on this. Like, well, I guess actually that's a lie.
they've been releasing movies out of order now, haven't they? So
Yeah,
they could go back on it, but like,
I doubt they will.
yeah, I really don't think they will.
Especially because I think they're teasing something new with the Hulk. Because I've stopped watching this shit, but apparently in She-Hulk he goes into space or something.
What, like again?
Yeah.
All right.
I don't know the context of it because I haven't seen the show, but apparently Hulk goes into space for reasons, I guess. So I'm guessing they're teasing a thing like some other movie.
Right. Weird.
Like I say, don't know what. I've not been watching Marvel stuff. I won't be watching Marvel stuff. I've removed myself entirely from the MCU.
Yeah.
It's not to say I won't see anything. I'm sure I will at some point, but I'm not going to go out of my way to see anything.
Yeah, I hear that. Like, I've been on that flex for a little while, and nothing is pulling me back. The Marvel fatigue set in real early for me.
I think it hit both of us at the same time. Age of Ultron.
Yeah, Age of Ultron. Yeah, it was when I said I can't be doing with this anymore, man. Like, I don't know why. I was like, Age of Ultron was your time to just bring Thanos in, and you wasted my time. I'm not like, whoa. Yeah, so with that, I feel that kind of summarizes a lot of my thoughts on the Hulk franchise itself as well.
Yeah.
And why, I don't know why people are whinging about She-Hulk, because it just sounds like she does the stuff that she does in like the comics, I guess.
Yeah. Also, just to make it perfectly clear, this is not going to become a series. Okay, we're not going to do any other Hulk movies or any other Hulk shit.
Yeah.
This is it. Okay, I'm not. I don't want to talk about the Incredible Hulk. Not because look, it's better than this fucking movie. But here's the thing: there's nothing to talk about.
Yeah.
Nothing, and there's no like. What we're also going to talk about the fucking animated movies. Like no.
Yeah, like this. There's not really a reason to make this into a Hulk series. Again, like we can't, because there's just not enough Hulk media out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wanted to do a one-off on this, talk about that.
Right. I think that's about everything. Like, comment, subscribe. Tell us what your favorite flavor of crisps are in the comments.
Oh man,
That's a good one.
what's your favorite edit?
What's your favorite? Yeah, no, actually, that works better. What's your favorite edit in Ang Lee's Hulk? Comment down below. And until next time, Ian Beale.
Ian Beale.